not even knowing what to do or say. And the phone goes both ways. The kids can always call me.
She sat at the edge of her bed, hands clenched, eyes swollen, silent. Aurora wasn't crying, but Robyn was. Loud, broken, uncontrollable sobs echoed up the hallway as she clutched one of Aurora's old sweaters to her chest like it could keep time from moving forward. But time was moving fast. It's not what I wanted either. And the questions no one ever imagined asking were now impossible to avoid, because the rumor wasn't just rumor anymore. It was real. There was a pregnancy, and there was silence, the kind that rattles walls. And Cody, gone. Not a single word, no post, no statement, no visit. He had vanished at the exact moment his family needed him most. Hi friends, Helena here, and welcome back to TLC's Sister Wives News. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything coming up. This is a hard episode to talk about, but it's not one we can ignore. And I want to know what you think. What was the moment that made your jaw drop the most? Because this is no longer just behind-the-scenes tension. This could be the moment everything finally falls apart for what's left of the Brown family. The sister wives are gone. Christine, Janelle, Meri, they built new lives away from the chaos. But Robyn stayed, and Aurora, always the quiet one, became the center of a scandal no one saw coming. Right now, fans are rewatching every frame, every awkward smile, every uncomfortable silence from past seasons, looking for signs, looking for the moment the whole thing started to crack. And they're asking the same question over and over again. How did it get this dark? And why is no one stopping it? If you've been watching Sister Wives for any length of time, you already know this didn't happen overnight. The truth is, the cracks in this family started forming years ago, long before Aurora became the center of this latest storm. What we're seeing now is the collapse, but the foundation that started crumbling the moment Cody stopped being a husband and started acting like a ruler. His marriages didn't fail in some explosive soap opera way. They faded quietly, painfully. Christine was the first to admit it. She didn't leave because of one big betrayal. She left because she was exhausted, unseen, unloved. And every time she tried to express that, it was either brushed under the rug or blamed on her. Janelle followed for the same reason. She saw the writing on the wall. There was no partnership left, no shared decision-making, just Cody and Robyn in their own world, while the rest of the wives were expected to silently wait their turn with scraps of affection and bare minimum attention. And then there's Coyote Pass. That land was supposed to be the dream, a fresh start, a family legacy. In reality, it became one of the biggest symbols of manipulation this show has ever shown. Cody pitched it like freedom, that every wife would have her space, that they'd all build together. But none of it was real. Year after year, plans stalled, money disappeared, and no one could make decisions without his approval. The land wasn't about unity. It was about control. Meri held on the longest, and honestly, that loyalty wasn't strength, it was trauma. She sacrificed her voice, her future, and her happiness just to keep some version of the family together. She stood by Robyn when Christine and Janelle walked, hoping there was still something to salvage. But what she didn't realize was that Robyn wasn't just another struggling wife. She was the one Cody chose over everyone, every time. Her silence wasn't helplessness. It was power. She didn't need to say much because Cody did all of it for her. By the time Meri broke the silence, it was already too late. Her loyalty wasn't just ignored, it was discarded. Christine left to breathe. Janelle left because she couldn't stay sane. And Meri, she finally stopped pretending. Because at some point, survival becomes more important than appearances. And that's when everything started to fall. Aurora was never the one you expected to be in the spotlight. On the show, we saw her as soft-spoken, polite, and always eager to please. She followed every rule, stayed in her lane, and rarely, if ever, questioned authority. She was Robyn's golden child, always close by, always protective, always loyal. And naturally, because of that, Aurora spent a lot of time around Cody, too. Not just as a father figure, but as someone she visibly tried to make proud. There were small moments where that bond stood out. Scenes where Robyn would talk about how deeply sensitive Aurora was, or how she struggled more than the others with the emotional toll of the family's unraveling. Cody, who seemed disconnected from his biological kids with other wives, made it very clear that Robyn's kids were different. His tone softened around them. He showed up for them in ways that left other viewers, and honestly, even some of his other children, confused and hurt. For a long time, no one thought twice about it. Aurora was sheltered, she had anxiety, and Robyn often mentioned how important it was to shield her from stress. But over the past few seasons, subtle changes started happening. Aurora stopped appearing as much in front of the cameras. When she did, her expression was strained. The once eager-to-please daughter was quieter, not in her usual gentle way, but different, disconnected. And fans noticed. Questions started heating up online. Was she okay? Why did she leave mid-scene during a group chat? Why was she missing from family events where she usually showed up front and center? It wasn't gossip at first, just concern. But the more Robyn defended Cody, the more fragile Aurora seemed to become. And when Cody's complete emotional withdrawal from his other children hit new highs, the focus began to shift. People weren't just asking where Cody's relationship with his other kids went wrong, because they were starting to notice just how heavily involved he was still with only Robyn's kids, especially Aurora. The dynamic was changing, and it didn't feel right. Not because Aurora did anything wrong, but because the silence around her kept growing louder. The girl who never made waves was now at the center of something that felt deeply uncomfortable, and no one in the Brown household seemed willing to explain why. The moment the pregnancy rumor hit the internet, everything changed. It started quietly with whispers and fan forums and blurry social clips reposted on TikTok. But within days, the speculation turned into full-blown panic. A fan had spotted an odd scene from a now-deleted Instagram story. Aurora in the background looking noticeably different, heavier, dressed in oversized clothes, hand on her stomach. That shouldn't have meant anything. But in the context of how absent she'd been from the show lately, people started connecting dots nobody wanted to believe were real. And then came the online storm. On Facebook groups, it ignited like gasoline on dry grass. Reddit threads exploded with users analyzing every old clip, photo, and interaction between Aurora and Cody. Fans tracked when she stopped doing public appearances, when she stopped appearing with her siblings, when Cody stopped mentioning her altogether. Then someone pointed out the Flagstaff pharmacy sighting. Unconfirmed, but believable enough to throw the fandom into chaos. It wasn't just about whether Aurora was pregnant. It was about the unthinkable question no one wanted to ask. Who was the father? And through all of it, Cody said nothing. No denial, no statement. He didn't even make one of his usual long-winded confessional-style defenses. He vanished. And that did more damage than any words could have. The silence sent a clear but disturbing message. Fans started filling in the blanks. If this wasn't true, why weren't they addressing it? The longer the silence dragged, the more headlines grew legs. And then Robyn snapped. What aired was different. This wasn't your typical TLC tension moment or a stage confessional setup. We watched Robyn implode. It wasn't clean, it wasn't polished, it wasn't wrapped in editing. She was on the floor of her bedroom, clutching one of her Aurora sweaters. She wasn't crying pretty, she was breaking down. Her voice was Kutsoma, her hands shaking. All she kept saying was that she didn't see this coming and didn't know what to do. And still no denial. Not once. She didn't come out and say the rumors were false. Not on camera, not in an interview, nothing. That's what haunted fans the most. It felt like watching a house burn down in slow motion while the people inside pretended it wasn't on fire. Then the camera did something rare. It didn't cut when Cody arrived days later, slamming doors and visibly furious. His anger wasn't protective, it was defensive. He accused everyone of turning against him, accused Aurora of shaming the family. It was raw and it was ugly. He never asked Aurora if she was okay. He never addressed the rumor. What he did do was blame Robyn for not handling it. That was the moment this stopped being just a rumor. The audience wasn't shocked because it was messy. They were shocked because it felt real, too. And the one who stayed silent through the entire thing was the one person who mattered most, Aurora. For years, Meri stayed quiet, not because she didn't see what was happening, but because she wanted to believe loyalty could fix it. She held on longer than anyone, and that says something. She stayed when Christine left, she supported Robyn when Janelle backed away, and even when Cody all but kicked her out emotionally, she kept showing up. Not out of weakness, but out of hope so persistent it hurt to watch. Through every season, fans ask the same question. Why won't Meri leave? Why won't she speak up? But in the middle of the current chaos, with Aurora at the center and Robyn unraveling on camera, Meri finally started using her voice. And what she shared wasn't loud or dramatic. It was heavy. It was tired. You could see it in her face when she spoke plainly about what it cost her to stay all those years. The loneliness, the silence, the constant rejection, and most of all, her growing realization that Robyn, the one person she defended through it all, wasn't the victim Meri thought she was. During her sit-down on camera, Meri didn't scream, she didn't accuse, she simply told the truth. Cody never made room for her after the catfishing scandal. Robyn pulled her in when it was convenient, then stepped back and let her suffer when things got hard. Her whole world was built around trying to hold on to something that had already let go of her a long time ago. The most heartbreaking part, Meri still tried to justify some of it. That's how deep the emotional programming went. For so long, she thought silence was strength, that by keeping the family whole, sacrificing her own truth was noble. But now, as everything around her falls apart, she finally sees what so many fans saw years ago. When she said she felt manipulated, not directly, not with orders, but with silence and expectation, that's when it clicked. She was never really chosen. She was simply tolerated, said when needed, forgotten when it mattered. But Meri's silence is over. She hasn't screamed or stormed out, but her choice to speak at all, that's louder than anything Cody or Robyn could say. She stopped standing still. She walked away not just from Cody, but from the idea that she ever had to be small to deserve love. When Christine sold her share of Coyote Pass for $10, it looked small on paper, but emotionally, it was a knife to the heart of everything Cody claimed this family stood for. $10. That's not just a transaction. That's a message that said loud and clear, this land means nothing to me anymore. Take it. I'm done. For years, Coyote Pass was sold as the family's future. Each wife would have her own home, the kids would be close by, and the Brown legacy would live on. Cody talked about it like it was his grand vision of unity, but in reality, it became his last attempt at control. Year after year, nothing got built. Promises kept slipping, and as the family started to fall apart, it got clearer. This wasn't about providing for his wives. It was about holding that land over them like a leash. Christine saw it first. She didn't want to keep fighting for a dream that wasn't hers, so she took control. In the simplest, most powerful way, she gave it up. Not for market value, not for half, for $10. That decision hit Cody harder than words ever could. He didn't just lose a piece of property, he lost his illusion. The land that was supposed to root the family exposed how little was left to hold it together. Janelle, always practical, finally said what many fans had been thinking. Kody was never going to build anything for anyone but himself. She admitted she'd poured her money into that land, into that promise, all while watching Kody focus entirely on Robyn. She wasn't just disappointed, she was angry. And honestly, who wouldn't be? Meanwhile, Meri stepped back completely. No more defending, no more hoping. Legally and emotionally, she started to disappear from the equation. One wife gave it away, one cashed out, and one just stepped out of frame entirely. At the end of the day, the land was never about shared dreams. It was a quiet battlefield where emotional manipulation played out in surveys and signatures. Now, with nothing built and everything sold off, it stands as a symbol of what this family pretended to be and how it all came to absolutely nothing. While the older generation frays under years of resentment and emotional damage, the next one is quietly starting to speak for themselves. And that contrast, it's impossible to ignore. In one preview for the new episode, we see Mykelti, Christine and Kody's daughter, opening up days before delivering her twins. There's no glamour in her voice, just truth. She's exhausted. She admits she's scared. She doesn't sugarcoat pregnancy. And when she chooses a cesarean for her safety and the babies, there's no drama, just resolve. Mykelti isn't asking for approval. She's owning her experience, showing fans a different kind of strength, the kind that doesn't need chaos to feel powerful. And right next to that courage, we watch Aurora barely being able to lift her head, not because of medical fear, but because she's been living in silence while an internet wildfire swirls around her. And when Kody finally returns after days of absence and explodes with rage, it isn't at the media. It isn't at the speculation. It's at his family for not managing it. He never asks Aurora how she feels. He doesn't offer support. Instead, he blames Robyn, lashes out, and disappears again. Then there's the scene fans can't get out of their heads. Aurora walking out of the house, past Kody and Robyn, past the camera, without a sound. She doesn't make eye contact. She doesn't say goodbye. And Robyn is left sobbing, begging Kody to help, calling him out for leaving her daughter when she needed her most. The woman who once defended him through everything finally breaks, and she stops protecting him. Meanwhile, fans don't miss a beat. Questions explode. Why is Kody still talking about Aurora's spiritual growth? Why is her name now tied to this obscure church ceremony that feels more like cover than comfort? Why only her? What does it mean that he traveled away for clarity instead of being there for his daughter? For a man who once claimed to be the patriarch of a united family, Kody is now surrounded by empty houses, broken trust, and one daughter walking away silently while the cameras keep rolling. The symbol of legacy, Coyote Pass, is gone. The legacy itself in pieces. Robyn is shattered, Kody is absent, and Aurora, the once quiet, rule-following daughter at the heart of the perfect image they tried to sell the world, walked out without even a glance back. And maybe that's the final truth. The family they wanted us to believe in, it was already